Have you ever felt like you're at war with yourself? You know, one part of you wants one thing, and another part just pulls you in the complete opposite direction. Well, it turns out there's a 1400-year-old instruction manual for winning that exact internal war. Today, we're going to decode a really fascinating text from the 7th century that lays out a whole psychological system for true self-mastery.
So, this ancient text we're exploring, it kicks off with a question that honestly hits just as hard today as it did 1400 years ago. Who is really in control of your inner world? Is it you, your rational mind, or you just being pulled around by these two powerful forces of anger and desire?
The author actually gives this internal tug-of-war a name. He calls it the material dyad. It's this pair, anger and desire, that he says is the root of all our inner turmoil. And he argues that the very first step, the absolute starting point for any kind of wisdom, is to gain mastery over these two natural but super powerful forces. Okay, so how did this ancient philosopher suggest we do that? Well, first we're going to identify the internal enemy. Then, and this is the really cool part, we'll learn this secret symbolic language he used to overcome it. After that, we'll look at some of the mental exercises, see what the end goal is, and finally we'll ask, what does any of this have to do with us today? All right, first things first, we have to understand the battlefield. And the text is super clear about this. This is not about fighting people out in the world. The real battle, the one that matters, is against the passions that live inside every single one of us. And he gets really specific about these two. See, anger isn't just, a flash of temper. It's that deeper stuff, vindictiveness, holding on to grudges, that malice that waits for a chance to get even. And desire isn't just wanting something. It's that deep, clinging attachment to pleasure and to stuff. The goal here is to cleanse these defilements, as he calls them, to get to a place of real mental clarity. So, how in the world do you fight a battle like that? Well, the author's solution is kind of brilliant. It demands this radical shift in how you see everything. It's about learning to read the world and ancient scriptures, not as literal stories, but as this rich tapestry of symbols that all point to deeper truths about our own minds. Okay, let's take a look at our first example, from the story of Moses at the burning bush. He's given a simple command, right? Loose the sandals from your feet. On the surface, seems pretty straightforward. But in this system of thought, almost nothing is just what it seems. And this is where you really see the method in action. The physical object, the sandal, that's not the point. It's a symbol for the soul's attachment to its old way of life, a life the author calls being tied to the flesh. So the big takeaway here is that this isn't about shoes at all. Removing the sandals becomes this powerful metaphor for shedding your old habits, your attachments, and starting a brand new intellectual and spiritual journey, a journey toward understanding what's real beyond just the physical world. And what's so wild is how this symbolic thinking can be applied to pretty much anything. In another example, even the colors described in an ancient law about leprosy get reinterpreted as symbols for our inner state. So white and green come to represent the two sides of desire, pleasure, and its shadow, grief. And yellow and black? They represent the two faces of anger, that hot wrath and that cold, calculating vindictiveness. Right, so this whole symbolic way of thinking isn't just some passive way to read old books. It actually becomes an active training exercise for the mind. This is where the theory really becomes practice. So get this, ancient instructions for animal sacrifices are completely reimagined. They become a symbolic guide for purifying our own passions. The fat symbolizes desire, the kidneys symbolize pleasure, the breast, anger, and so on. The whole idea is to use what he calls the divine fire of knowledge to metaphorically burn away these parts of ourselves and become pure. And this story of the priest Phineas, it's turned into this dramatic, step-by-step guide for what to do inside your own head. Your reason, your rational mind, that's the priest. It observes when your soul gets tangled up with some destructive passion, a fleshly titillation. Then reason picks up the spear of intense, focused zeal, and it pierces right through that connection, forcefully separating your true self from that harmful impulse. It's amazing. So what's the point of all this? What's the reward for all this rigorous mental and symbolic training? What does a person who's mastered this ancient art actually look and feel like? The text describes this state of just profound psychological resilience. The goal is to become truly impregnable, like a fortress, to all the temptations and emotional storms that are constantly attacking us. You're no longer controlled by what happens outside of you or by your own internal whims.
This quote just captures the essence of that freedom so perfectly. I mean, imagine that, being completely unshaken, not getting wounded by insults, but also not getting carried away by praise or glory. You are totally free from the domination of anger, of envy, of rivalry, all of it.
And listen, this isn't about becoming some cold, emotionless robot. It's actually the opposite. By mastering all those negative passions, you create the space for positive virtues to really grow. You start to build this consistent character of humility, deep compassion, patient endurance, and a genuine love for other people, all free from that chaotic pull of anger and desire. Okay, let's just step back for a second here. This really complex, ancient system of thought, it offers a pretty profound challenge to our modern way of thinking about knowledge and even self-improvement. You know, maybe the ultimate takeaway from this 1,400-year-old guide is this. True wisdom isn't just about cramming more facts into your head. It's about developing a whole new kind of perception, the ability to see the deeper, symbolic meanings hidden just beneath the surface of our lives, our stories, and our own minds.
And that really leaves us with a final thought to chew on. What if the most important events, the biggest struggles and the patterns in your own life, what if they aren't random at all? What if they're all symbols, trying to tell you something more, just waiting for you to learn how to read them?